Hey there everyone, it's GG Silver Sun. Happy Founders Day. Today is June 10th. And if the 24-hour day book reading, if we have had some moral, religious, or spiritual training, we are better prospects for AA. When we reach the bottom, at this crucial moment, we're thoroughly licked. We turn instinctively to whatever decency is left in us. We call upon whatever reserves of morality and faith are left down deep in our heart. Have I had this spiritual experience? Nah, I don't know. I think that might be kind of a stretch. You know, because whatever faith we had before left us in a place where we're drinking. I've seen it happen far too many times in the past where people come in and they think they have a clue about who God is. And God's like, nah, I need you to get rid of all that. So all that moral, religious, or spiritual training is of no use when we reach our rock bottom. In fact, I had to forget everything that I thought I knew about God before and really break it down to where the group of drunks was my God. I didn't think I had any idea of who God, it's sort of like I had too many resentments about religion, and so I had to put all that stuff aside and kind of learn all over again. When the group of drunks idea began to not leave me, but grow, and I accepted initially I think it was the moon or something like that. And it might have just been the moon caught me one night, or I caught the moon one night walking home in the dark, and it just struck me as particularly beautiful. And that leads to thoughts of infinity. You know what I mean? And when you start thinking of infinity, you start thinking of eternity. And it just seems unfathomable that we as puny little solitary human beings can have much of an impact on the world without tapping into a power source greater than ourselves. Seems really ridiculous. And so the door opened a little bit further. So have I had a spiritual experience? Absolutely. And that is what drives me. That's what keeps me going, And so, but to think that there was something to hold on to, it's kind of like, for me anyway, it was kind of like when I went to basic training, military basic training. They have the whole tear you down and build you back up kind of thing. Try to get you to not really forget who you were, but it's kind of like, you're nothing, you're scum. They don't even call you airman anymore in Air Force basic training. You're called trainee until a certain point in basic, a certain milestone when you get a coin and they start calling you airman, which is pretty cool. It's kind of a cool milestone, or rite of passage. Meditation for the day. The world wonders when it sees a person who can unexpectedly draw large and unsuspected sums from the bank for some emergency. But what the world has not seen are the countless small sums paid into the bank, earned by faithful work over a long time. And so is the bank of the Spirit. The world sees the person of faith make a demand on God's stores of power, and the demand is met. The world does not see what that person has been putting in thanks and praise, in prayer and communion, in small good deeds done faithfully, steadily over the years. Now, I don't entirely buy that. I don't mean to be contrary today, but that reading kind of makes it seem like do good, get good. And the implication is conversely, do bad, get bad. And I think God's unmerited grace and favor is something, well, it wouldn't be unmerited and it wouldn't be grace if we could, pay into some sort of faith bank and reap the rewards. Now, there is a natural order of things that when I go ahead and I am faithful, I get stronger because I'm developing character. That is kind of a spiritual principle, almost like as valid as gravity is a law of nature. And so, when I sow good habits, I reap character. Not necessarily faith, but faith is part of character, or character is part of faith, I suppose. But it's important, I'm realizing more and more as time goes on, that developing character, and it says it throughout the AA literature, developing character is the way to go, rather than before my shallow misunderstanding of faith was to just try to be a good person. That's not what it is about at all. Try to be a good person, which means I don't know, maybe that's my own experience, right? That just feels like me gritting my teeth and clenching my fists and saying, I'm not gonna drink. And sometimes it comes down to that, right? Because every day I don't pick up a drink, I'm in with a chance. And sometimes it will be a gritting of your teeth and white knuckling it, but hopefully it never gets there, right? Only that I'm going to seek God's will. Yes, I'll grit my teeth and seek God's will and avoid that first drink, because all bets are off when that happens. So seek God's will, seek God's will, seek God's will. It's a proper use of our will. I was just talking with my son about that today. It's the proper use of our will. It's to seek God's will for our lives. So, and I have concluded that it is God's will that I avoid alcohol and that I avoid mind-altering, mood-altering substances, which includes marijuana for me. A lot of people can get away with it and still, they can still be members of Alcoholics Anonymous, because the singleness of purpose is just that, But there are people that disagree with that a drug is a drug is a drug is a drug. I'll tell you, I was addicted to over-the-counter decongestants. I've shared that before, I know. But I didn't reset my sobriety date because of it. And thank God I didn't pick up a drink. And I didn't feel as much of a fraud as I did when I was smoking pot, though. That's the thing. I felt like a complete fraud when I was smoking pot. I thought I could rationalize it away and keep going. I just wasn't in my right mind, apparently. But anyway, in the end, I felt like it was keeping me away from AA, so I reset my time. Because I want to be around my people and be free. And not feel like a fraud. And that's just me, again. So, prayer for the day. I pray that I may keep making deposits in God's bank. I pray that in my hour of need I may call upon these. Nah, sorry. I disagree with that. Because there's times when I'm going to feel, because it says it in the literature that oftentimes we see the growth in other people, or other people see our growth before we see our growth, right? And a lot of times, just because I was raised in a shame-based environment, you know what I mean? The focus was always on what you haven't done, right? So I'm not going to be thinking, my default setting isn't thinking about, well, I've done this, that, and the other thing. And I don't think that's what the really big book says about faith and how faith works. It doesn't say, well, I put in these things, you know, I put in my time. That's like the brother of the prodigal son who was like, I've been here this entire time and you haven't even given me a sheep or a goat for me to party with my friends. And he goes and squanders everything and comes back and I get treated like a, you know? That's kind of like the prodigal son, the brother of the prodigal son. And some people may say, well, yeah, he has a right to be upset. Well, that wasn't the point of the story, right? The story was we can kick God around, we can slander God, you know, we can take his name in vain and all that stuff. Not that I think that's a huge, you know, I mean, swearing. I don't think saying Jesus Christ in an angry manner is necessarily a sin, but it's the people who carry his name and make it small, you know, that are taking his name in vain and sort of wearing down the weight of his name, of God's name. So, but again, it's not about pointing to what we've done that reaps the rewards, God's rewards. You know, it's about what he did for us that we should point to. You know, it's that old story that makes me cringe. You know, it got me saved back in the day. It's like, what are you going to do when you're asked, why should I let you into heaven? Are you going to point to your own good deeds? You know, and I always hated that. It's like, ugh. You know, and that's when it talks about in the really big book that, you know, that all our self-righteousness is like filthy rags. And, but there was somebody who stood in our place and said, I'll take that punishment. And to me, nothing explains how a perfect creator can want a relationship with me, or the sixth and seventh step can just wipe that away. You know, something has to take that punishment or whatever, you know, and that's what they're saying. You know, that's what they say, that that's what Jesus did, took our punishment. So that's just my version of a higher power. And I'm not trying to deny it, you know, what I believe, but I also, everybody needs room to grow into their beliefs. But if you're tuning into this channel, that's what you're going to hear. I mean, I'm not trying to be cavalier about it. That's just a fact. That's what I believe. So, at any rate, I love y'all. Keep coming back. Look up. Aim up. Rise up.